ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। In the 33rd and the 34th verses of the 3rd chapter, which we saw last time, Krishna said that what is it that makes a person to get into a certain type of an action? First thing Krishna said was that it is the vasanas or the impressions which form a person's swabhava or prakriti, and it is that prakriti or that swabhava or that vasana which is triggered by some kind of a trigger which brings in a particular kama or a raga towards a particular object. And it is not under my control which thought will come when. I am neither in control of the triggering factors nor am I in control of my own prakriti. So everybody goes along with one's prakriti. Then does it mean that a person does not have free will at all? If everything, every action that I do is determined by my prakriti or swabhava, then does it mean that I have no free will at all? No, we have a free will. Krishna says, where is the free will? Once the thought of raga or dvesha towards a particular object or towards a particular thing arises, now stopping that particular raga or dvesha from ramifying itself further into a situation where I cannot anymore control not doing that action. I should not go to that level. Therefore, though I cannot control the prakriti, though avashaha, without my permission, my swabhava or my what are called as vasanas are going to bring in a particular thought. The moment that thought comes with awareness, when I'm aware of what thoughts are coming, when I see that the thought is ramifying further into a very, very strong raga or dvesha, there I have the capacity to manage those raga dveshas at the level of the indriyas by dhamma, at the level of the mind by Shama. And this is necessary for a mumukshu. But for a jnani, it has become a very natural svabhava of his that whatever thought arises out of his prakriti, it no longer goes into a chain reaction of going into further action. Therefore, he said that indriyasya arthe ragadvesha vyavastito. So where are the ragadveshas situated? Now in the next few verses, Krishna is going to talk in more detail about what are the loci or what is the locus, which are the different points of locus of these ragadveshas, and where and how can we take care of them. That's going to come in the next 3 or 4 verses later. Now, if a person has to manage his ragadveshas, and if it is difficult as a mumukshu for one to be absolutely aware, and before even one realizes the ragadveshas have taken hold of a person, and in such a case, what can happen? The ragadveshas or our strong likes and dislikes can make us take up to a wrong action, take up a wrong decision, and do something which is not very conducive for us. And I gave you in the last class the example of what Acharya Shankara says in Viveka Chudamani, that once a ball starts falling down the staircase, then there is no way of preventing that ball from coming down till it goes down to the last step. Similarly, here also, once I let the ragadveshas ramify and go into a strong kind of a need for me where I'm forced by these ragadveshas to do the action, to go after the indriya arthas, then I cannot do anything. I have to stop them at a particular point before they become very, very strong and push me into action. Now, Krishna says there is another way of dealing with this ragadveshas. How do we do that? He says that in this, when I'm under the spell of ragadveshas, I may think of doing something which is not really natural for me, something which is not, I'm not something which I'm made for. And I may make wrong decisions and take up to something else which I am not really good at. Now, what Krishna calls this is Swadharma and Paradharma, which is going to talk about in the 35th verse. Swadharma. What is the meaning of Swadharma? Number one, see, any kind of an action that I do or my tendencies or how I respond are based on two things. One is the Prakriti, which we have already seen what Krishna has told about. Then there is something called as an environment also. So the genetic or Prakriti or Swabhava on one hand, and the environment in which I have grown in this particular life for this many years of my life, both of them together determine what I am good at. Secondly, I'm born with certain, talents. I'm born with certain capacities. I'm born with certain strengths which are inborn in me. And if I make use of them, and if I do action, any action using these which have come to me by birth and also have been strengthened by the environment, then what I'm doing is Swadharma. Whereas I don't have a flair for something, I don't have the capacity or the talent for something, but then I find that something else is more attractive, but I'm not fit enough for that, either by my environment or by my inborn capacities. And if I try to go after such karma, I'm going to be a failure. So, what Krishna says is that which I'm not really meant for, but because it is more attractive, it is more remunerative, and it is something which will probably give me what I want much more easily and faster, I tend to go for something even if I know that I'm not fit for such a thing. Therefore, what Krishna says is that to take hold of these ragadveshas, one best way is to do karma as a karma yoga. How? Swadharma. Okay, Swadharma Anushtanam Ishwararpana buddhya swadharma anushtanam. Swadharma means whatever I explained all this time. Earlier in the Vedic period of society, or till recently, there was Varnashrama system where a particular Varna, a particular ashrama, we'll talk about the Varnas later when we come, in the next chapter, Krishna will be talking about the Varnas. So Varna means a particular group, depending upon what I can do best. They were divided according to the guna and karma into four Varnas where a person was able to follow the best of what he could do. There was a vyavastha called as varna vyavastha. There was a vyavastha called as an ashrama vyavastha. When one followed that varnashrama vyavastha, it was said to be swadharma. And in swadharma, environmentally, in that varna, I have been strengthened by my own family and my own community right from the time I'm born. And also I am born with certain tendencies. I am born with certain kind of those strengths which are strengthened by the environment. And if I follow this is called as following swadharma. And Krishna says that even if swadharma is not that attractive, it is better to stay and follow swadharma rather than go after some other thing which I am not at all really going to do I'm not going to do any kind of a good in such thing. Now let us take an example here. Now, supposing, okay, I am trained to be a doctor. I have been trained like this. Now I find that being a software engineer or something is much more lucrative, much more this one, that is more interesting. This is, I'm fed up of it. I want to do something else. That's a very common thing in today's youth. I'm fed up of whatever I want to do something else. I want to try something else. We don't understand that supposing even something else is much more attractive, I don't have the capacity and the strength to sustain that something new, and I may not do well at all. But that in which I'm trained by a particular vyavastha, though it is not very attractive right now, is actually the right dharma for me. So swadharma and swakarma means that whatever you are able to do your best at a particular given place, at a particular given time, is your swadharma, is your swakarma, even though it happens to be less attractive than something else. So here Krishna wants to tell Arjuna in the next verse that Arjuna, you are a kshatriya, you are a born kshatriya, and you are, your vasanas and your particular strengths are that of a kshatriya. Environmentally, you have been supported by being born and brought up in a kshatriya family. Therefore, Arjuna, your swadharma and swakarma is kshatriya dharma, kshatriya karma, and you have to fight this war. But now you want to go away from this dharma and take to a life of sannyasa, which is paradharma. And this is not going to be easy for you because your tendencies, your vasanas will not permit you to take up to a life of a mendicant. At the same time, the environment in which you will go as a sannyasi is not the environment that you have been trained for. Therefore, Arjuna, do your swadharma, do your swakarma, and that is what is going to lead you to the next step of Jnana Yogyata Prapti. Now let's read this verse. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. He says, even if you find defects and deficiencies in your swadharma and swakarma, please do that, follow that. That is the best for you. Don't try to do something else because somebody else is doing that, because paradharma is bhayavaha. Bhayavaha means it is more challenging and you may not know how to deal with it. May you stay in your swadharma, may you stay in your swakarma and do what you have to do with Ishwararpana Buddhi. Being a Kshatriya, fight this war with Ishwararpana Buddhi as Karma Yoga. That is more Shreyakara for you than following the dharma of a Brahmana, the dharma of going away and living as a sannyasi. That is not your Swadharma, Arjuna. That becomes a Paradharma. Now let us take one very simple example here. Let us take, we have, say, a football match going on, right? There is a goalkeeper, and what is his dharma? He has to be standing there near the goal. Whatever. Sometimes ball may not come to a Vittala. Sometimes the ball may come to him very frequently. But what is his dharma there in that game? He has to stand there. But supposing he feels, my all the other people are running. So why am I standing here? Let me also run. It looks much more, it's so much better to run. And if the goalkeeper starts running like the others, then it is paradharma, right? Let's take an example of a machine. There is a bolt which is supposed to sit tight doing nothing. And that bolt has to sit tight for the rest of the machine to work. And what is the dharma of the bolt? It is to sit tight and not to move, to allow movement to take place at the other points or at the other places. But if this bolt decides everybody is moving, the whole machine is doing, and I'm not doing anything, I'm simply sitting tight, and if that also starts moving, then the whole machine, the machinery fails. What Krishna wants to say here is, may you follow your swadharma, do your swakarma with the attitude of karma yoga, ishwararpana buddhi, then swadharme nidhanam api shreyaha. Even if you die, even if you don't do well in your swadharma, it's okay. It takes care of your agadveshas and it helps you to go further for jnana yogyata prapti. But if you get into paradharma, you are neither here nor there. Now let us understand one more thing. Fine. Swadharma. We said there, I said that there were vyavasthas earlier. Varnashrama dharma was there. Each person had an environmental support, family support, and also the tendencies, inherent tendencies. Fine, we have seen all that. Now, today's world, where there is no definite varna, ashrama, dharma at all, then what is my swadharma? What is my swakarma? That kind of a doubt is likely to come to any of us. So, what is said is that wherever I am, whatever job I am doing, whatever is my responsibility at that particular given place, at that particular given time, is my swadharma. Okay, so whatever I may be doing that in whatever situation I am, whatever comes in front of me as something to be done, kartavyam maya iti, at this place, at this point in time, in this situation, this is to be done by me. This is my swadharma. So in the earlier Vedic period, maybe there were definite things. This is your swadharma, this is your swadharma. But in today's world, in today's kind of a situation, we can say that that which is to be done by me at a particular given place, playing my role. If I am a mother, I play the role of a mother to the best of my ability. If I am a student, I play the role of a student to the best of my ability. Wherever I am, whatever I am doing, without coming under the spell of ragadveshas, without hating what I am doing, without seeing that some other thing is much more lucrative and much more attractive, so let me do that, let me not do this. No, that's not the thing. So swadharmaha ishreyaha paradharmat swanushtithat. Other than doing what I'm supposed to do in this particular situation, playing my role according to the script given by the director. Who is the director here? Ishvara is the director. Like an actor who stays firm to the script and does not go beyond it, then only what he does will be the right thing for that particular role. So I play my role very well. If I try to go away from my present role, trying to follow somebody else's role just because it looks more attractive, it is bhayavaha. That means I have done an action of omission of my swadharma. At the same time, I will not do well in para dharma also. Therefore, the best way of doing karma yoga without getting under the spell of ragadveshas is to do whatever's to be done by me, playing my role wherever I am, whatever is my role, in whatever way I have to play it. Let me do it to the best of my ability, offering this karma to Ishvara, Ishwararpana Buddhya, and not having any phala abhisandhi in what will I get if I follow this my swadharma. No, whatever comes is Ishvara Prasada. In that way, if I take it, then Ragadveshas cannot have any kind of a spell on you. Now, Arjuna comes up with a question. He says that sometimes I know what I'm doing is not right, but then something which very, you know, strongly pushes me towards a particular action. What is this? Is there a devil sitting inside me which is making me do things which I'm not supposed to do, and which forces me into following paradharma and doing things? See, paradharma here means, let us not take dharma as religion here. Paradharma means that which I'm not meant to do is paradharma. That which I am meant to do is swadharma. But what is it that pushes me to do something which I'm not supposed to do, and something which which I am supposed to do, it prevents me from doing? It looks as if there is something which is sitting inside me, like what Duryodhana said. Duryodhana also said the same thing. He asked this question, Janami dharmam nachame pravritihi. I know what is dharma, but I don't have an inclination to follow it. Okay. Janami adharmam nachame nivritihi. I know what is adharma, but somehow I cannot, you know, retract from it. I cannot go away from adharma. There seems to be something which is sitting inside me and in my buddhi and forcing me to really take up to adharma. So, what is it? Same question is Arjuna's question here in the next verse. So, he says, अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छनपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः. So he's telling here that atha kena prayuktoyam, who is this which is, influencing a person so strongly to do something which is not supposed to be done? Papam charati purushaha. Purushaha means purushaha. There is something, some demon seems to be inside me, which is impelling me, which is impelling a person to do something which is not supposed to do. Kena prayuktayam. By whom is this person literally impelled to do papam charati? I do something which I am not supposed to do, maybe following paradharma and not following swadharma. Anichanapi varshneya, anichanapi. Even though I don't want to do it, even though deep inside in the heart of my heart, I know that this is not meant for me and I should not be doing it, because something, some dharma is telling me, no, this is not for you to be done. But even then, there is something which is making me, compelling me, impelling me to do this, which happens to be a papa karma. Baladiva niyojitaha, baladiva, forcefully. Varshneya, hey Varshneya, he's addressing Krishna as Varshneya because Krishna belongs to the Vrishni Kula. Vrishni Kula Udbhavaha is, Vrishni Kula Udbhavaha Varshneya. Hey Krishna, Varshneya, the one who was born in the Kula of Vrishni, Vrishni Kula, Anichanapi, a person even if he doesn't want, Anichanapi, Baladiva Niyojitaha, Kena, Prayukta Ayam, Papam Charati. This Purusha, Ayam Purusha, what is it that forces such a person? Forces a person into doing something, following pradharma. Papam charati means he's forced to do something which he's not supposed to do. The answer of Krishna is very interesting, and that's something which we all need to take very seriously. What does Krishna say here? Kama yesha krodha yeshaha rajo guna samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Miha Vairinam. What he told in the Kama Krodha, okay, Indriyasya Arthe Ragadvesha Vyavastito. Now he's going to talk about how these Ragadveshas act. What is the mechanism of action of Ragadveshas? Where are the ragadveshas situated, and how can I deal with these ragadveshas so that I am not forced to follow or go after paradharma, and I am not forced to stop doing swadharma, and I am forced to do something which I am not supposed to do, and forced not to do something which I am supposed to do. What is the mechanism of action of this ragadveshas? Entire Bhagavad Gita is management of ragadveshas. Everywhere you will see ragadvesha viyuktaistu, vigata ragadvesha. So that means all the time Krishna is talking about management of ragadveshas. Ragadveshas cannot be controlled, but they can be definitely managed at various levels. And this is what Krishna is going to talk about in the next few verses. So he says, Yesha kamaha, Yesha krodaha. And he says, Arjuna, it is this kama and this krodha, yeshaha. Why is he using this word yeshaha, this? Anything which we are very familiar with, when we are very familiar with certain things, we say this. Are we not very familiar with raga or kama? A strong desire, a binding desire to do something. Are we not aware of it? A strong dvesha, a strong dislike. Are we not aware of it? So every one of us is aware of this kama and krodha, raga, dvesha. So what is this kama and krodha? Kama is a strong desire. And when that desire is not fulfilled, it manifests as krodha or anger. Okay. Unmanifest anger is kama. Okay. When kama fails, there is krodha. And it is said that kama, how? A very strong desire. I must have it. I should have it. And I don't get it. Then that transforms, it gets converted into krodha. A converted kama is krodha. Krodha in its dormant form is kama. So what he says here is they are like two sides of a coin. Kama and krodha cannot exist without each other. They are needed for the other one to manifest. And he says, Yesha kamaha, Yesha krodha. This kama, this krodha, this anger, kama, krodha, what we know very well, what are they? They are the ones who are actually sitting. It's nobody else. There is no devil sitting inside me. It is my own raga dveshas which are impelling me to lead or to do something which is not supposed to be done. Papam charati purusha. And who are these? What are these kamas and krodhas? The rajoguna samudbhavaha. We know the three gunas which we are going to again study in detail in the future chapters. Sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. And Krishna says that this kama is something which is absolutely propelled by rajoguna. Rajoguna samudbhavaha. So the kama is rajoguna samudbhavaha. And when the kama does not get fulfilled, it gets converted into krodha, which can become not only rajoguna, but it can become extremely tamasic, tamoguna prabhut, samudbhavaha also, krodha. And what kind of kama is it? Mahashanaha. Mahashana means that which never says enough. Mahashanaha. He gives the example later, like fire. Supposing you go on feeding fire with whatever it is. Is there any time that the fire says enough? No. Fire is a glutton. It is called as anala because na alam. There is no alam, enough, no satisfaction. More, more. I want more. That is the characteristic of fire. That is why it is called anala. And kama is like that. A binding desire, if I allow the desire to be fulfilled all the time, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And the kama never says enough. It wants more and more and more. It is a glutton, maha ashanaha. A gluttonous thing is kama. It never says enough. Like fire, it is all the time asking for more. Mahashanaha, mahapapma. What is mahapapma? Mahapapma is a sinner. Sinner means what? A violator of dharma. Okay, when I have a kama, which is mahashanaha, which is not satisfied by anything, and when kama wants more and more and more and more, what does it become? It becomes mahapapma. Mahapapma means I am willing to violate all dharma, forget swadharma. I am willing to violate even samanya dharma for the sake of attaining what I want from this kama. And then when the kama doesn't get fulfilled, it gets converted into krodha, which is also mahapapma, because in krodha I can do so many things which can violate dharma. So they are rajoguna samudbhavaha. When a strong rajoguna samudbhava kama is there or krodha is there, my sattva guna is literally completely occupied. It is completely under siege. The sattva guna or my buddhi is completely under siege, and the sattva of my buddhi is not able to decide upon what is right and what is wrong. Therefore he said in the previous verses, raga dveshau paripanthino. Paripanthino means what? They rob me of my discrimination. They rob me of my discretion. They rob me of all my sattva guna. And when all my sattva guna is gone, the buddhi is incapable of making any right decision. Vidhi yenam iha vairinam. May you know, Arjuna, that the real vairi is not from outside, not from inside. It's your own kama. It is your own raga, your own binding desire, which is a gluttonous thing which never says enough, and it is the one which makes you do any kind of an adharmic activity, gets converted into krodha when it is not fulfilled. And in the next verse, Krishna says, how the rajoguna udbhava kama and krodha, which later becomes highly tamasic, how these can actually, completely screen out or completely siege my buddhi. They can completely cover my discrimination and discretion. How? Krishna gives three examples in the next verse. He says, Dhume vriyate vahnihi yatha darsho malena cha yatholbena vrito garbha tatha tene damavritam. The buddhi or my sattva guna or my discriminating capacity is literally covered. How is it covered? Krishna gives three examples. First, he says, when my raga is still very mild and when I'm still able to take care of it and, deny or, manage that raga. I won't say control. When I'm able to manage that raga, when it is still mild, when it is still in a seed form or in a sapling form, how does it cover my intellect? It covers my intellect like fire covered with smoke. Fire is there, but I cannot see the fire because it is covered with smoke. Then what do? You try to just do this or foo 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 you do, then all the the dhuma means the smoke disappears and I can see the fire clearly. When the kama and krodha are still in very very early stages, then when I allow the raga dveshas, kama krodhas to become stronger, then how do they cover my intellect? They cover my intellect a little more strongly. My sattva guna is little more strongly covered. How? Yatha adarshaha malena cha. If a mirror, Adarsha, is covered by dust, okay, by doing foo-foo, it will not go, correct? What should I do? I have to wipe it with a cloth. I have to wipe it with my hand. So easily, like I cleared the smoke surrounding the fire. I cannot clear or clean the mirror by simply trying to shoo it away. What should I do? I need a little stronger method of clearing the adarsha or cleaning the adarsha, maybe with a dry cloth or sometime even with a wet cloth. And then when kama becomes so strong that it is not, when it is mahashana, that I just cannot get out of it, then what happens? I have to wait for it to go through its, whatever is its strength or whatever its power, I have to wait for it to go. Then only my buddhi will become clear. That is why most of the times when we have strong desires and krodha, at that time we don't have any discretion. After that kama or krodha has spent itself, after it is gone, then suddenly I feel, Are, what did I do? Why did I do this? Why did I get so upset? I have done something so adharmic by it. Why did I do this? Now, what is the meaning? That means when my raga dveshas are extremely strong, the example here that Krishna gives is Yatha ulbena avrito garbhaha. Now, there is a fetus inside the womb of a pregnant mother. Can I see the fetus from outside? No. It is covered, so thickly by the womb. The womb covers the fetus inside so thickly, I cannot see it. Now, when can I see that fetus? I have to wait for the delivery to take place. And when the fetus has come out, then only I can see it. Similarly, the ragadveshas can completely mask my intellect. They can completely cover my sattva guna and intellect in such a way that in the initial stages I may be able to probably stop them, like clearing the dhuma or the smoke from the fire. Little later, still I have got the control over them in the form that, like clearing or cleaning a mirror, I can still try to get rid of that. But if I allow this ragadvesha to continue to its fullest form, like the womb covering the child within, I'll have to wait for the child to come out. Similarly, I cannot do anything. The buddhi is incapable of taking any action, and the kama and the krodha have to spend themselves fully, and after that only the buddhi can start working again. But by that time, it is too late. And this is how the sattva guna is literally, sieged. My capacity of discrimination and decision making in the right direction by my buddhi is completely seized, because the buddhi is capable of making decisions only when it is sattva pradhana, when it is sattva guna pradhana. When there is rajoguna pradhana, tamoguna pradhana buddhi, it will never take the right decision. So he says in the next verse, Avritam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Now he says, Jnanam yetena avritam. Your discretion, jnanam here means the buddhi, the discriminating buddhi, the nishchayatmika buddhi, the sattva guna pradhana buddhi is yetena avritam, kama krodhena avritam, and jnaninaha nityavairina. Jnani here means for a mumukshu, for a karma yogi, even for a jnana yogi, they are permanent enemies. He says for a mumukshu, I may be a karma yogi, I might have, had enough of chitta shuddhi, and I am a jnana yogi now. Pursuing this jnanam, even in such a stage, even if I have sufficient amount of chitta shuddhi, it is possible that I may come under the spell of ragadveshas once in a way. Therefore, for a jnana yogi and also for a karma yogi mumukshu, they are nitya vairis. They are permanent enemies. Ragadveshas can never be friends. They are always enemies. Now you may ask me, then without raga, without a desire to do something, how will I progress in life if I don't have any desire at all? What Krishna is talking about here is a raga which is dharma viruddhaha, and a raga, which is a rajoguna samudbhava raga, a raga which is a binding desire, a raga which has to be fulfilled for me to feel the completeness. Whereas there are sattvic ragas, non-binding ragas, like a jnani, a sthita prajna may also have a raga. But what is his raga? What is his kama? Raga and kama mean the same. What is his kama there? That I should do something for the sake of loka sangraha. Krishna also had a desire that dharma should be established. Krishna also had a desire that Arjuna should understand what he is teaching. Now, is this not kama? Is this not raga? It is kama, no doubt, but it is a sattvika kama. It is not a binding kama. And at the same time, Krishna is doing it not for the sake of swartha for himself, but for loka sangraharte. Therefore, all the actions that are done by the jnanis, by the sthita prajnas, also are brought about by kama only. But there, the kama is something which is not dharma viruddha. It is dharma aviruddha kama, which is meant for the sake of loka sangraha, for the sake of benefit of the jagat. That's why further in the 10th chapter, Krishna says, aham dharma aviruddha kamosmi. He says, I am the desire. I am the desire in the minds of people who are sattva oriented. Dharma aviruddha kama ahamasmi, he says, I also manifest in the form of kama. So here kama rupe, kama here means the desires which can blind me, the desires which are meant for only my selfish fulfillment of my selfish desires. And at the same time, these kamas are in no way going to be helpful to the jagat, as the loka sangraharte know. It is only purely a sakama for my sake, and I'm willing to go to any extent, even if it is dharma viruddha, for the sake of fulfilling this kama. This is the type of kama and krodha which Krishna is talking about. So kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. So dushpurena, insatiable like fire. Analena cha, dushpurena. Anala means again fire, which is never satisfied. Na alam asti yasya, for whom there is no question of enough, I'm satisfied, I'm happy. If something comes again, if something more comes, Ishvara's will. If nothing comes, no problem. Today, whatever you have given me, I'm happy with it. Thank you for whatever you given me. This is, the kama that is a sattvic kama, which is experienced, which is enjoyed as Ishvara Prasada, and not going after it again and again and again. So kama rupena, okay, nitya vairi. Nitya vairi kama rupena is a nitya vairi comes as a kama rupena nitya vairi bhavati. What is this kama? Kaunteya, hey Arjuna, this kama is like insatiable fire. Dushpurena analena cha. Okay. Then he says here, now he wants to explain to Arjuna that where is this? So this is the first thing. Now we saw what we saw. What is the mechanism of action of ragadveshas and how it completely, kind of takes a mumukshu or a jnani completely. It wayleads them. They are completely wayled and robbed from their path of spiritual, or what you call as their as a mumukshu, to attain their moksha purushartha. In that, how these ragadveshas can completely rob these people out of the the mumukshutvam and the path of the mumukshu, like karma yoga, jnana yoga, moksha they have chosen, how they can take them away. Now next Krishna wants to say, what is the locus? Where are these ragadveshas situated? he said in the previous verse, Indriyani Indriyarni Arthebhyah, Indriyasya Arthebhyah, Ragadvesha Vyavastita. Now, the same thing he wants to say again. Krishna says that where are these Ragadveshas situated? He says there are three places in which the Ragadveshas are acting, and the Adhishtanam or the support of Ragadvesha. See, without a base, without a support, nothing can exist. So, what are the bases of Raga Dveshas here in this me? Krishna says, Indriyas, the sense organs, Manaha, the mind, and the Buddhi. These three are the places where, these three are the loci, or these three are the bases where Raga Dveshas are located. And therefore, initially, we have to manage the Raga Dveshas, targeting only these bases, not anywhere else. Why is he talking about the bases? It will come later in the last one or two verses. Krishna will explain why he is giving or explaining where the Kama, Krodha, Raga, Dveshas are actually situated. Which are their points of existence? Where do they exist in the Anatma? So here he's telling, Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhishthanamuchyate yetairvimohayatyeshaha jnanamavritya dehinam. So he says that the loci or the bases where raga dveshas are situated and work from. Where do they work from? The base from where they do their work. Indriyani, the sense organs, manaha, the mind, and buddhihi. And these three are the adhishtanam, means what? The base or the areas where they are situated for their operations. Yetaihi vimohayati eshaha. By these, the dehi or the person or the jiva gets completely deluded, completely confused. Why? Jnanam avritya. These, the buddhi also. See, initially, if I don't do something about the ragadveshas at the level of the indriyas, then the raga dveshas will be stronger at the level of the mind. And there also, if I am not able to do anything by dama and shama, then my buddhi completely gets waylaid and the buddhi is not able to take action as it is supposed to take. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. We saw that in the 63rd verse of the second chapter. Buddhi nashaha. So, for a person, Dehinam, the Dehi, for me, this person who is residing within the Deha, for this Jiva, these three take these Ragad, the Ragadveshas, take or operate from these three sides, and this is how they Jnanam Avritya. They completely delude me surrounding my discriminating capacity. Therefore, what should you do, Arjuna? तस्मात् त्वम् इन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ पाप्मानं प्रजहिह्येनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम्. Now what Krishna says is, therefore, first try to manage your ragadveshas at the level of the indriyas. What is the meaning of at the level of the indriyas? At the level of the indriyas, have the capacity when the indriyas are asking for more, the mind has to have the capacity to say no, no more. I want to eat, I like something, I go on eating, one more, one more. The mind has to say no, enough. The mind has to, supposing the mind also goes with the indriyas and says, doesn't matter, I'll have one more. The buddhi has to have the capacity to rein in the mind and the horses, the indriyas, and say no more. This is it. So, indriyas cannot say no. The mind can say no. And if the mind also going along with the indriyas, it is the buddhi that can say no. So, initially at the level of indriyas, it is dhamma, which we have already talked about in detail in Tattva Bodha. Shama, that is the management of the mind, where the mind is able to decide that no, I will not go along with the indriyas. And ultimately, the buddhi is is the highest of these. The buddhi, which is the leader of the indriyas and the mind, ultimately has the final say in saying no. But if the raga dveshas are so strong that the buddhi is also completely surrounded or avritam, then the buddhi also goes along with the mind and indriyas. And what does it give rise to? Jnana vijnana nashanam. Jnana vijnana nashanam means what? Whatever I know, jnanam, is also lost. Whatever I have understood and whatever I have assimilated as vijnanam is also lost. When I know something theoretically, it is jnanam. But when I have assimilated that jnanam and when that becomes the truth for me, it is called as vijnanam. Now, let us take an example. I know what anger can cause. It is the jnanam. I know that. At the same time, having gone through these situations where I have been a victim of somebody else's anger, or I have victimized somebody out of my anger, after having understood this, the vijnanam has happened in me that no, I mean, every time it is this anger which is causing this. It's not mere jnanam, it is an assimilated jnanam. Yes, no, I have to stop it here. If I cannot stop it at the level of the indriyas by the mind has to stop, the buddhi has to stop. But if the buddhi also is completely surrounded by this avritam yetena, then the buddhi also goes along with them. And buddhi nashat pranashyati, that means what? Jnana vijnana nashanam. So Arjuna, right now, when you are having the desire to leave everything and go away and become a sannyasi, before it becomes strong enough, may you have the capacity for shama and dhamma, and may your intellect be discriminative enough to say no to paradharma. May your buddhi be discriminative enough to say that this is my swadharma, this is my swakarma, and I have to do it with Ishwararpana buddhi, karma yoga buddhya. I have to do my swadharma, swakarma, anushtanam, and that is the ultimate shreyas for me, because this is what is going to lead me to the ultimate shreyas of moksha. So therefore, Arjuna, this papmanam means this papa rupi kama, try to manage at the level of indriyas first. And if you're not able to do it, then understand, sorry, yeah, then may you please understand that your jnanam, your vijnanam are both lost. Now, in the last two verses, which are the seed verses for the next chapter also, why did Krishna mention or talk about the basis of kama and krodha, raga and dvesha? He wants Arjuna to know that, see, the indriyas, the mana and buddhi are anatma. We have seen that already in the second chapter. That means the raga dveshas do not affect I, the Atma. Where are the effects of this raga dvesha? It is on the anatma indriyas, anatma mind, and anatma body. Therefore, may you understand, Arjuna, you or I, the Atma, is subtler and superior and beyond all these things. Therefore, the kama, krodhas, raga, dveshas have to be, as a mumukshu, managed at the level of the sense organs, the mind and the buddhi. But for a jnani, the person who has already understood aham atma asmi iti, for such a person, management of raga dveshas are natural. They become his svabhava. So now, here Krishna is using a particular prakriya or module of teaching called as Panchakosha Viveka. And what he says is that the body is the grossest, the physical body. The indriyas are subtler than the body. The mind is subtler than the indriyas. The buddhi is the subtlest of the anatma, and what is there beyond that is I, the Jnana Swarupa, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Atma. So he says, Indriyani Paranyahuhu, Indriyebhyah Param Manaha, Manasastu Para Buddhihi, Yo Buddhe Paratastu Saha. Saha means what? Now, what is the tatparya of Krishna having told all this? He says, Arjuna, where can raga dveshas affect one? They are only located in the anatma, sense organs, mind and buddhi. They cannot affect you, the atma. And who are you? You are not the anatma, body, mind, sense complex, but you are that jnana swarupi, nitya, buddha, Shuddha Mukta Atma. This is what is understood by a Jnani, which will come later. But as Jnana Yoga, the next chapter is coming, the last two verses, Krishna wants to give the seed verses for the next chapter. And he says that, Arjuna, Kama Krodhas do not affect you, the Atma, because you are beyond all these things. Okay? Indriyani parani ahuhu indriyebhya param manaha. From the Jagat and objects, Indriyas are subtler. Indriyebhya param manaha. The mind is subtler and superior to the sense organs. And manastastu para buddhi. The buddhi is still subtler and superior to manaha. And buddhehe paraha. Who are you? You are neither the body nor the sense complex nor the mind. And you are the one who is the Atma Swarupa. You are that Atma itself, and which is what I have told you in the second chapter between the verses 12 and 24. You are that Atma. You are not the Anatma. So if at all the Kama Krodha are there, they are in the Anatma, they affect the Anatma, and all the karma that is done by the Anatma is affected because all this happens at the level of anatma, body, mind, sense complex. Arjuna, you are really the Atma Swarupa beyond all this. And you will understand this as we go further. And therefore, Yevam buddhehe param buddhva. Yevam buddhe param buddhva. Samstabhyatmanam atmana. Jahi shatrum mahabaho. Kamarupam durasadam. So, hey Arjuna, Yevam, in this way, buddhehe param buddhva. May you understand that you are that consciousness, that Atma, which is beyond even the buddhi, and abiding in that Atma Swarupa, samsthabhya Atmanam Atmana. Atmanam Atmana samsthabhya. May you understand that you are actually that Atma itself, abiding in that Atma. Ultimately, this knowledge is the one which will completely free you from raga dveshas. At the level of the anatma, that is the indriyas, mind and indriyas, mind and buddhi, you can only manage them. But when you understand that I am this raga dvesha rahita asanga atma, which is beyond all these bases of kama krodha, then that is the final victory over ragadveshas. So this jnanam, understanding that you are the atma swarupa and you are not this anatma, is the final elimination of ragadveshas, and understanding that the ragadveshas, I am not the ragadveshas, I am the Atma, not affected by the raga dveshas. It is at the mind, body, sense complex, buddhi level. And when finally this knowledge is the one which clears you forever from raga dvesha. But Arjuna, right now you are not fit for this knowledge. You have to still go through karma yoga and do your swadharma anushtanam with karma yoga buddhi. Manage your ragadveshas at the level of indriyas, mind and the buddhi and go up to the Jnana Yoga and finally free yourself totally, completely from ragadveshas by this knowledge. And what you are wanting, sannyasa, this sarva karma sannyasa comes from not simply going away to the forest, but by this knowledge. And these are explained further in the fourth and fifth chapter. These two verses will be explained more in detail. So today we have completed the third chapter. I'll give you the summary of the third chapter in the next session and start with the fourth chapter. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyodhyayah. नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।